Hey there viewers, Deli here, and welcome to the Delicroix Design. Not New Release Friday, because I'm a lazy piece of shit. I actually just got a new job, so I'm kind of burnt out today. This was my first day on the job, and it's pretty strenuous. I'm also pretty burnt out from a concert a couple days ago, so I don't feel like doing New Release Friday this week. I just want to kind of chill and talk about some stuff. And actually, the stuff that I want to talk about is what I'm doing right now, which is not doing New Release Friday. I recently came to a realization about my motivating factors for making YouTube videos, and actually my motivating factors for working really hard at YouTube. And the more that I thought about it, the more I found it pretty interesting. So I'm going to kind of talk about that. If you don't know, by the way, Delicroix Design is a series in which I just talk about the inner workings of my mind, or the design of my mind. So the reason this all came up is because I had vacation. I had some time off. Some of you might remember me mentioning that I had time off. And in that time, I expected to get a lot done. On YouTube, specifically. I expected to work on tons of content and have all sorts of awesome content and be putting it out, possibly start a new Let's Play. And I actually ended up skipping a day of New Release Friday and spent less time working on YouTube than I ever had in the last few months. And it was weird. I didn't know why. And I was just a lazy piece of shit my entire vacation. Like, seriously, my whole vacation was spent sitting watching AGDQ and playing video games. But I didn't record them, and I didn't, like, make videos. I was a total piece of shit my whole vacation. It was like 2 weeks straight, over 2 weeks. Now, I like that kind of vacation. That kind of vacation is totally up my alley. But after I finished up with my vacation, or as I got towards the end of it, and honestly, through the entirety of it, I was feeling pretty bad about the fact that I didn't do anything for YouTube, even though I had said, oh, I've got time off, so I'm going to be doing all sorts of stuff. Not that any of you probably give a fuck, but yeah, it's an internal thing. It's me that's worried about it. So it was funny because all of a sudden when I started working again, I got a burr up my ass, and I really wanted to work on content. I wanted to create. But I didn't have as much time because obviously I wasn't on vacation anymore. I was back to working. Even though I didn't work very many hours, it was still enough to impede making videos. So I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about, why am I getting so inspired, and why am I getting so many ideas, and why am I wanting to create content so much more when I'm at work? And I think I understand why. See, content creation for me has always been just fun. It's been something that's been super fun for me, and something that is just a creative outlet. I feel like I'm a creative person, but I have an issue conveying creative ideas and getting them out onto paper, or, you know, into any medium. And because of that, it's just tough for me, you know. I have all these ideas and things that I want to do, but they just get blocked up in there. So what motivates me oftentimes to get them out and to try and do things in sort of the only form that I'm somewhat good at, which is YouTube, is when I'm in a situation that I really don't like. And that's why I noticed it, is because I hated my last job so much. I don't know if I'm gonna like this new job, because it's nothing that I want to do with my life at all, not even close. And I'm gonna spend a lot of time just probably still thinking about the fact that I'm never gonna be able to live and do what I want in life. But since I was at Lowe's for 5.5 years, when it was supposed to just be like a part-time college job, there was something about going to that place that motivated me to do things that I cared about, specifically YouTube. Because even though I make content, I create content for the sole purpose of, it makes me happy. I enjoy doing it, and I do it on my own terms, and that's why I don't really like schedules for the most part. But New Release Friday has been an adventure in itself, and so I've really enjoyed doing it. But that's one of the reasons that I don't really mess with that sort of content, is because it's not on my terms. It feels like I'm being forced to do it. And if I don't have ideas, I don't want to do something, you know? Or if I'm not feeling like creating, then I don't want to do it. But even though I do create content for myself, there's always this little voice in the back of my head that's telling me that YouTube could eventually, Twitch could eventually, content creation could eventually become a career path if by some miracle it took off.
10 seconds.
And it's really hard these days, you know. It's not the way it used to. And if I knew about the inner workings of YouTube back in the day, then maybe I'd be in a much different place now. But back then, I wasn't worried about that sort of thing. Like, I hadn't gotten to a point in my life where I was questioning, am I gonna spend the rest of my life doing something I despise? But now that I have gotten to that point, it's kind of like, you know, I kind of care more about the content that I'm creating and trying a little bit harder, just on the off chance that maybe it does take off and somehow I can live a life doing what I love. So I guess the moral of all this is, what I'm saying is, being demotivated motivates me. Feeling like shit and feeling like my life is in a spot that I would never want it to be in kind of gets me hyped and makes me want to try and push it to somewhere else, you know? And maybe that's not good. Maybe that's unhealthy of me to do. Because then what happens when I get to a point, maybe, where I'm completely content with my life, or maybe I get to a point where I'm actually happy with what's going on, then am I just screwed and I'm gonna get demotivated and get lazy again and stop doing what I care about or trying to make myself better? I can't imagine I would, because I've seen people who do that. I've seen people who, they get into a position of power, you know, or they get really popular making content, and then they just let it slip away. And maybe they let it slip away in the form of, like, hurting their fan base in some way by doing something stupid. Or maybe they let it slip away by just not putting out content anymore, and they just kind of get comfortable with the fact that, whatever, I've done my job here or whatever. And every time I see someone who does that, I hate it. It hurts me deep down to know that someone could have something like that and then just let it go. So I don't think I would ever do that. But at the same time, I don't think to myself that I'm going to end up in a position like that. It's not realistic to think that way, to think that, like, oh, I'm going to quit my job and do whatever it takes to become a full-time content creator. You don't just do that. You can't do that, because nothing's given in the world of content creation. There's no one who's guaranteed to make it, you know? Whether you're streaming, no matter what you're doing. Nobody knows what causes viral videos or what causes someone to take off and get super popular. It's not as simple as great content. Because if it were as simple as that, there would be tons of people who are super popular. So I guess at least I'm grounded. At least I understand that it is in fact a pipe dream, and I can keep creating content for myself and doing what makes me happy, with the hope that maybe on the off chance it might turn into something that could put me in a better place, you know? So that pretty much sums up this episode. Basically, me being demotivated and feeling like shit about my life is what motivates me. So if you ever notice that I go on a stint where I'm not making content very often, or that I just start skipping a bunch of days or whatever, stuff like that, it probably means I'm feeling okay. Or it means I killed myself. It's one of the two. Hope you enjoyed this. It was kind of weird. Kind of a bummer. But I'll see you next time.